Howdy friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Luke, and today we got 5 Hoyas that are great for beginners, so stay tuned for more. When I first started collecting plants, I heard Hoyas thrown around, or Hoya thrown around quite a bit, and for some reason I just thought they were very unattainable for me. I thought they were kind of out of my reach. I thought they were like a fancy plant, if you will. You know, you commonly hear of Pothos or Monstera deliciosa as kind of those first beginner plants, and I think beginner plant parents are sleeping on Hoyas. I think the reason a lot of Hoyas are overlooked in the beginning is some of them can be very slow growing, but there are a lot of positives to Hoyas that I wanted to share with you. Usually when you buy one from like a big box store, there's multiple little plants in one pot. So you have multiple opportunities for kind of all these growth points. And once they start growing, they start shooting out vines like crazy. So you get kind of a lot of growth action from one plant, if you will. Also, a lot of Hoyas can dry out quite a bit. They're pretty drought tolerant. Not all Hoyas, so that's something to be noted, but a lot of them are fairly drought resistant. They have thick, waxy leaves that tend to hold water. This is not scientific, by the way. They're almost like a hybrid between regular houseplants and succulents. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. I hate succulents. I think they're hard to maintain, but Hoyas are much more approachable for me. So let's start off with number 5. Number 5 for me is the Hoya Obvata. This one is at the bottom of my list because I find it to be the slowest growing of the Hoyas I own, but it does have these beautiful thick leaves. They're kind of round and very succulent-like. This is an Obvata splash, so you can see kind of that splashing on there as well. Don't mind the little jingling of the leca. When I got this plant, it still is just kind of this one single vine. So this one has definitely been a slower grower for me. When I first had it, it didn't do a whole lot for the first month I had it. Then all of a sudden, this long vine here started shooting out. And then now this kind of side vine's shooting out. It finally put out this new leaf. So you can see kind of the difference there. Nice and thick and waxy. One thing to note about most Hoyas is they like a lot of light. So I have this one under a grow light in a window. My window doesn't get a ton of light over in the kitchen, so I kind of supplement with the grow light, but that definitely helped this kind of move along. And now we got, another little vine coming. It looks like we should have some more leaves being put out very soon as well. So that's always exciting. I have it up in this little trellis because Hoya do like to grab onto something. So that's why I have it kind of on this trellis here to help kind of sustain these heavy leaves that it puts out. But overall, I've been really enjoying this plant. It's probably my current favorite plant I own. I love this cute little round leaf down here. Like, how cute is that? It's like a little button. A little button. I don't know why I think it's so cute, but I also like how flat it is. I wish this new leaf would be a little flatter, but is what it is. I also find this Hoya to be the most drought tolerant of the ones I have. So when I had it in soil, I could let it go for quite some time without watering it, and the leaves didn't get like limp or anything like that. Overall, I think this is a fantastic plant. Number 4 is my Hoya Why Eddy Eye here. So this is my newest Hoya. So you can see it's kind of small. This started as just 2 little cuttings. I really need to rinse my leca. This started as 2 little cuttings, and it already has put out this thin little vine. Got some new leaves coming in here. This is number 4 on the list because it is a little bit harder to find. You won't be able to find this one in any big box stores. Well, at least not in my area. I haven't even found it in any local nurseries either. I got this one from a seller on Etsy that sold it as just 2 rooted cuttings. Actually, I purchased a plant, but the first one that came in was basically on its last leg, about to die. So I reached out to the seller and she said all she had left was 2 cuttings. She thought the other plant might have been diseased, which why would you have sent it if you thought it was diseased? But anyway, she said these cuttings were separate from the mother plant and they looked pretty healthy, so she sent them over. I really like the kind of dark margin on this plant. You don't see like dark brown or black too often on leaves, so I think it's kind of cool and unique. And as I mentioned, it's already kind of putting out this vine. It's already got some new leaves coming in, and I just think it's really pretty. And I can't wait till it's like a nice hanging basket of all these little taco-shaped leaves. This one, for me at least, was really easy to propagate. Most of my Hoya have been pretty easy to propagate. This one specifically put out roots I think in like, it started putting out roots in under a week. I also have another cutting from the original mother plant that looked somewhat healthy that I kept, and it started putting out roots in like just about a week. So really easy to propagate, really fast rooter, and fairly affordable. I think the plant itself was like 10 bucks. It should have been a 4-inch pot, like a full 4-inch pot. So not extremely large, but fairly affordable in my opinion. Also, this one is a little bit unique and different, but still fairly easy to find. So that's why this is number 4 on the list. Number 3 on the easiest Hoyas for beginners is the Carnosa. So this one is a Carnosa Crimson Queen. The way you can tell the difference between a Crimson Queen and a Crimson Princess is the Crimson Queen has white around the outside and green on the inside here, and the Princess has green on the outside and white on the inside. The little saying to help you remember is the Queen wears the crown, meaning the white is kind of like the crown, and the Princess holds it in her heart. So it's kind of a fun way to remember it. This is number 3 on the list because it is pretty common. I haven't found it at any of my big box stores, at least not a Crimson Queen, but I have seen a regular just green Carnosa at my local big box stores, and it's a fairly moderate grower. It doesn't push out, at least for me in my experience. Side note, all of this is kind of in my experience. I did a little bit of research to kind of back up my thoughts, but overall this has just been within my care, so keep that in mind. It's put out a fair amount of new leaves, nothing crazy, but one thing I really like about this one is the Crimson Queen has the potential of putting out almost fully white leaves. So you can see like this one here, or this one here that's fully white. You don't really want them to be fully white because then, you know, that's not sustainable. You need a little bit of green to encourage photosynthesis, but you kind of get a really nice variegation on some of these. I got this one at a local nursery called Wild Island Collective. I'll link their Instagram in the description. If you're in the San Diego area, check them out. As you can see, I put trellises on almost all of my Hoya at the same time, so this one hasn't been growing as much, but it is continuing to grow. One thing I really like about the Carnosa is there's a ton of different varieties. So as I mentioned before, the Crimson Queen, the Crimson Princess. They also have the Crinkle 8, which I do have over in my collection over there, which the leaves are kind of like have dips in them and look kind of crinkled, which is unique and different. That one's an all green variety, at least mine is at least. But yeah, they kind of come in lots of different shapes and sizes. A moderate grower, nothing crazy, but not too slow. So that is why this earned number 3 on my list. The number 2 Hoya on my list is the Hoya Pupa Calyx. So this one here is the Pupa Calyx Splash. So you can see lots of really nice splashing on these leaves. Some of them have a lot more than others. Let me see if I can find a good one. This one over here is pretty good. This one's pretty good as well. So some of these leaves have a ton of splashing, which I think is really pretty. It almost looks like it's on the surface of the leaf versus being a part of the leaf, if that makes sense. It's almost like it was kind of spray painted. This variety is really easy to find in big box stores or at local nurseries. I got this one at a local nursery. Usually you can find just the green variety quite easily and pretty affordably. They're definitely kind of the easiest Hoyas to find. And this was my first Hoya that I ever got. As you can see, I have kind of 2 trellises here, and I just kind of wove the vines through, and it has all these leaves kind of coming in. So quite a prolific grower, if you will. This one's fairly drought tolerant. The leaves are a bit thinner than say the Obvata or even the Carnosa. So you'll notice the leaves kind of weep, if you will. I don't know if that's a term anyone else uses, but that's kind of what I think of, like crying leaves. Weeping leaves, like a weeping willow, I guess is where that my mind goes with that. But the leaves definitely kind of weep a little bit more when it's thirsty. You can kind of tell just by giving a little squeeze to see if it needs some water. I love a plant that tells you when it needs something, so that's always a positive too. Also, it's a really good beginner Hoya because if you can find them, so if you kill it, you can replace it fairly easily, so that's always a plus too. And that is why it is number 2 on my list. And finally, number 1, the best Hoya for beginner plant parents, especially beginner Hoya plant parents, is the Australis. So this one here I got at Home Depot. It was, I think, 12 bucks for this pot. It was about this tall when I got it, maybe a few weeks ago. I don't remember exactly when, but not that long ago. It's still in its Home Depot pot here, as you can kind of see. It's still kind of in the hanging pot. And I actually dropped... I used to have this grow light over here I used to have up on the wall, and this Hoya was hanging from that grow light, and the grow light fell off the wall. So this thing came tumbling down, lost a bunch of dirt. It actually clipped off a bunch of vines in the process. So not only is it one of my newest Hoya, but it was also quite damaged upon upon receiving it. But yet it continues to thrive. It has all these new vines pushing out. I literally, well, I don't like sit up and watch it, but I almost want to do a time lapse because this thing just grows like crazy. These vines at the very top, they have just been growing like nuts. This plant for me is basically indestructible. So that's another reason why it's at the top of the list. Also, its new leaves kind of come in this like fun purpley color. So that's always nice when you're a new plant parent and it gives you kind of a different color out of the gate. Kind of keeps you excited. I feel like this one goes overlooked because it is so common, but it's common for a reason. It's easy to propagate. Its leaves are quite thick, not as thick as the Obvata, but thicker than the Carnosa. So it has almost this kind of like scaly texture, like almost reptilian texture that I think is fun. Pushes out tons of new growth. I'm not doing anything crazy special to it, just giving it, you know, ample light and letting the soil dry out quite a bit in between waterings. That is something I may have forgot to mention before. Not only are Hoya drought tolerant, but most like to dry out completely in between waterings. I've heard they can be quite susceptible to root rot. I haven't had any root rot in my Hoya yet, including the ones in Lekka. Like, they're doing great. So there are many different varieties of this. Like there's the Lisa that has kind of, it's like a variegated version, has like some yellow to it. There's, I think, the Moonlight or something like that. That's pretty popular right now. That's quite expensive. But if you go for the regular old standard Australis, I promise you it will not let you down. Maybe I shouldn't promise because everyone's kind of plant abilities are a little different, but it's definitely by far my most recommended Hoya for new Hoya parents because it just keeps on giving. It's like a Thanksgiving dinner. It's like Santa Claus on Christmas, just keeps on giving. Really low maintenance, easy to take care of, puts out all this beautiful foliage. This is by far the #1 Hoya I would recommend. Well friends, that's all we got today. That's all we got today for the best Hoya for beginner plant parents. They're overall fairly pest resistant. I have heard that they're susceptible to mealybugs. I haven't had that with any of my Hoya, knock on wood. Hopefully I didn't just jinx that, but unlike things like alocasia or ficus that are like spider mite magnets, I haven't had any trouble with my Hoya so far. What did you think about this video? Did you agree with me about the best beginner Hoya, or do you have a different opinion? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, really helps out the channel. Subscribe with the notifications on so you stay in the loop when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you real soon.